Hi, Glendene. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And I think you're fabulous. And this is Glendene Grant, and it's missing Jessie Foster's mom.
Hi, Diana. Thanks for having me again. It's always nice to talk with
Yeah.
you.
And you're so
Yeah.
special. I call you the hero mom. I've called you the hero mom for years because you're the
Yeah.
one who will, if there's any media out there, you'll run up and say, "My daughter's Jessie Foster. She's a human trafficking victim." And you always will go over and above to help get the story out about Jessie. And
That's the least I can do for her.
yeah, and I'm so sorry this is still going on. It was 4 years after she went missing when we connected. So it's been quite
Yeah,
a time.
15 years ago. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jessie's been missing 19 years and we met 15 years ago in Toronto.
Yeah. Wow. If you wanted to tell everyone the story, start from the beginning.
Okay. Okay. Um, well, yeah, I'm Jessie's mom. I have four daughters. Jessie's my second oldest. Crystal, Jessie, Katie, and Jenny. And in 2006, Jessie was taken on what I always do in air quotes, a couple of trips from Canada down to the United States. And at the end of the second one, instead of coming home, she was taken to Las Vegas. It just so happened to be 2 weeks before her 21st birthday, and she told me she was going to stay and celebrate her 21st birthday in Las Vegas, which a lot of Canadian people, that's what they want to do. They want to go to Las Vegas and celebrate their 21st birthday. Canada, actually, the legal age limit is 18 in some provinces and 19 in others. So, at 21, they've already been going out and going to clubs and things, but everyone knows that Las Vegas is supposed to be some special place. So she did end up there, and and through a course of time, she met somebody and she fell in love with them, thinking they also fell in love with her. She got engaged to this person and moved in with him, and a few things had happened that didn't raise red flags because I wasn't looking for red flags, but
Yeah.
they kind of made me go, oh well, geez, that's too bad. That's weird. Like one thing was like Jesse was taken to Las Vegas in March of 2006 and was supposed to come back to Kamloops for a visit with this person that she was involved with in September. And shortly before she was supposed to leave, she called and said she couldn't come, that she had tripped and fallen and hit her jaw on the sidewalk and broke it. And now um, I couldn't go, couldn't fly back to Kamloops. And so she never did come home, which I thought, well, it's kind of weird, broken jaw or not broken jaw, you've already got your trip planned and stuff. Why would you not want to come home to your mom and your sisters and everyone, right? But I'm like, okay, didn't because I didn't have any reason to really think it was a weird thing. I didn't. And then um she kept in touch with us all the time. She kept in touch with her older sister Crystal, who
Yeah.
has since passed away.
I'm so
She
sorry.
kept in touch with her younger sisters, her dad, her stepmom, everybody. And then Christmas was coming. December was coming, and she was coming home for Christmas. This time, she was just going to come home by herself. She was going to come to Kamloops at the beginning of December. She was going to celebrate her younger sister Katie's 19th birthday because, like I say, 19, that's our consent for going into the bars and the clubs in BC is 19. And Jessie was going to come home, celebrate Katie's birthday. She was going to go to Calgary, where her dad and his family lived, and visit with them. Then she was going to come back to Kamloops and spend Christmas with us. And everything went up to plan, just the way she planned it, right up until Christmas morning when we got up. Everybody exchanged gifts, and our plan was to go to my dad's for Christmas dinner. And she informed us that she had to go back to Las Vegas and she had to go immediately back to Las Vegas. And that actually she had a flight that was leaving at noon. And, you know, like I was astounded because, first of all, I I think I kept thinking, who just suddenly leaves on Christmas Day
Yeah.
and flies out without, if that was the planned day she was leaving, and we already knew, I suppose might not have liked it, but I would have been okay. That's the day she's flying home. That's when her tickets were. But that's not how it was. It was just that day she told us she had to leave. So she never did go up to see her grandpa. She never had a chance to see him and have Christmas dinner. And we took her to the airport. She got on the airplane and flew back to Las Vegas. Um, that was, December 25th, obviously. And she kept in touch with us again. Every single day, somebody talked to her. And then on March 28th, um, she talked to her sister Crystal about plans where Crystal was going to go down to Las Vegas. She was going to visit with Jessie, and then they were going to fly back to Canada. They were going to come to Kamloops. Jessie actually had a car parked in her backyard. She had insurance on it. She just actually ordered the insurance for the month of April.
Yeah.
The insurance card came to me. Didn't come to me. It came to my address to Jessie, which I did end up opening it after Jessie disappeared because, I opened everything to see if there were any clues, and found out she had insured her car for that 1 month, and they were going to get a car. They were going to drive to Calgary. They were going to go to their stepsister's wedding reception. They were going to, she was going to do whatever she would do in Calgary, and then on March 29th, nobody could get a hold of her. Crystal tried again to get a hold of her. Katie tried to get a hold of her. They both told me they couldn't, which was quite that was weird to us. That did raise a red flag, and it was because she always answered. She always called back, and I mean like every single day. I probably talked to Jessie more often than I talked to my daughters who lived in the same city as me,
Yeah.
like on a daily basis. So we immediately started blowing up her phone, emailing. I don't think Facebook was quite a thing then, or if it was more used down in the United States. It hadn't quite spread around the world. Um, but there was the MySpace at that time, and I tried to get a hold of her through that, and through the MSN Messenger and all the old ways, and nobody could get a hold of her. I tried reporting her missing, but they told me I couldn't. That we had to get her live-in boyfriend
Yep.
do that.
Yeah.
My Jessie. We had to get her live-in boyfriend to report because he lived with her. So I called him and I told him he had to call and report her missing. And well, I thought he had, and then I tried to get a hold of him, and finally he called me back and said I was supposed to call this chief, and I was supposed to call him at a specific number.
Right.
He gave me that number, and I kept calling and calling. All I kept getting was a voicemail. And I'm like, I just needed to report her missing.
This is the Peter.
Finally, it was Peter Todd that gave me the number and told me that I was supposed to call this chief. I can't remember the gentleman's last name, but it was Chief so and so in North Las Vegas. And so finally I just Googled. I didn't know it was North Las Vegas, actually, Diana, to be honest. I still thought that they lived in Las Vegas.
Yes.
I did it right up until I got the actual house address and found out it was in North Las Vegas. So I Googled Las Vegas police. I phoned the number, and the woman that answered the phone, I told her everything, and she was so helpful. She was so wonderful. I couldn't believe how she wanted to do something. She said, okay, I need the address. So I gave her the address that I had for Jessie, because when Jessie came home the last time, she accidentally forgot her retainer, and I had to mail it to her.
Oh, good.
And so I gave her this address that Jessie had given me. And she goes, oh, ma'am, no, that's a mailing address. That's just a drop box. But it was actually like it was whatever the number was, Rainbow Avenue. So it didn't sound like box number something.
Feel
So
that.
it sounded like a house address when I used it. And I said, oh, okay, I had no idea. Let me get the house address. Hang up. I called back Peter Todd. I asked him for the address. I'll never forget the way he went, oh, well, it's 10. And then he said, why? And I said, because they need it so I can report her missing. And then he goes 1005 Cornerstone Place. I hung up, I called her back, and she said to me, "Oh, ma'am, that's in North Las Vegas. You have to call the North Las Vegas police." So I had to go through everything all over again with the North Las Vegas police. And just to backtrack just a bit, when I first contacted Las Vegas police and that woman answered, and I told her that I had been trying to get a hold of this chief of police, or that I thought he was chief of police,
Yeah.
and I gave her the number, and she said to me, "Well, that's actually a fire chief's phone number, not the police chief's phone number," and
Mhm.
that he had retired, and that's why there was no one answering that number anymore, because he didn't even do that job anymore. So much to her dismay and mine, she had to give me another number to call, and that was North Las Vegas Police. And I literally called there expecting the same enthusiastic response. "Oh, well, let me help you. What can I do?" And they were so dismissive. "Well, if she came down here, then it's her fault." And it just never ended with North Las Vegas Police.
And how
Um,
her fault. It's not.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't even have a missing persons department, because the police department was so much smaller than Metro, that they had a robbery homicide cop uh, that had never worked a missing persons case before. So he did the case. Um,
And then,
Over
like I say,
time, like it all didn't happen right away, but over time,
yeah.
um, he started telling me things like human trafficking didn't happen in North Las Vegas, that was all stuff that happened on the strip, and that um, if Jessie was being forced to work as a prostitute, then she probably at some point agreed to do it, and so her being missing would be her own fault. It was absolutely horrific.
That's horrible. That's horrible. That's
Very.
horrible. I'm sorry. You have
Oh
been
God.
through so much. Like I've known you for so long and you have been through so much and my heart always hurts. Like I was talking to Marty before I came on now and I was just telling him like Glendene's amazing, but she's been through so much. Like with Jessie, with Crystal, with Dwight. Like I'm so sorry. And it's so not
Yes,
fair, everything that's happened.
no, it's not fair to me, but you know what? More than that, it's not fair to them. Like Jessie went missing at 21 years old, and May 27th was her 41st birthday. She's been missing 19 years, but she's gone through 20 birthdays. My oldest daughter, Crystal, passed away. It's almost been 4 years ago. Their dad, Crystal and Jessie's dad, he passed away 5 years ago. He was 60 years old. Like there's no reason for him to have passed away that young. And there's no reason for Crystal to have passed away. She was 38.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It,
It's
it,
so much, it's so much heartache and what a family goes through with a missing loved one is torture. It's mental
yeah.
torture. I see it with family after family. It's horrible.
Well, what families of the missing do, I think, okay, let me just rephrase that. My family, what we do is we just cling to each other more than I think we would if this didn't happen.
Okay.
I mean, I've got my two younger daughters.
Yes.
They both have children, they both have spouses. My youngest daughter has four children,
Right.
and we all share a house. We've got a three-generational house, and see each other every single day, all every day. My other daughter, her husband, and my grandson, they live 45 minutes away. So when they come in Kamloops, our house is like their home base. When
Nice.
they, before work and after work, before school, after school, before BMX, after BMX, this is where they come. They have
Nice.
dinner here 3 days a week out of seven during BMX season. That's 11 people, sitting around having dinner
Yeah.
three
That's
times a week. But, and I
love. So
wouldn't
much.
have it any other way.
Yeah. So much
I
love.
couldn't have it any other way.
And
My husband is so dear. He puts up with everything that I put him through, all in the name of just being a loving mom.
yeah, oh, you don't put him through anything. You're amazing. You're amazing. And I know how you celebrate Jesse's birthday always because you'll always put the posts out with all the pictures and that's so special. But okay,
We
we'll get
have a
to the
dinner,
story.
we have cake. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
might have to say this year for the first time we didn't have cake. We actually had cream pies. We had a Boston cream pie, we had a banana cream pie, and we had a chocolate cream pie. Just to make it a little different. But we do. Same with on Crystal's birthday. We
Yeah.
have, whether we make like a big taco night, or we do a sushi a night, or we well, the first time our first dinner on Crystal's birthday after she passed away, we
Mhm.
had what our last dinner was with her. The last time when we had taken all the grandkids to Calgary to see her in the summer before she passed away, to we to do back to school shopping and all that kind of stuff, and we did a big A&W
That-
takeout dinner. And
is that-
so on Crystal's first birthday after she went missing, we had a big A&W takeout dinner at home.
You mean Crystal after she passed? Crystal?
She passed away on her birthday. We had a big A&W feast. So
You, I
we
used
do
to be
something.
the A&W bear when I was 16. I got a
Oh
job
yeah,
at
yeah.
A&W and I
Oh
used to walk
right,
around the mall.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember him. Kids
Yeah,
love getting the pictures taken with him. But
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, it's and the way I've been talking about my family, and I know I've been smiling through it all, even though I'm through all the trauma that we've been through.
yeah,
It's because of that part of my life that I can still smile. And
yeah,
I have been almost 2 decades looking for Jessie.
I know.
I couldn't imagine, and neither could my family, I'm sure, imagine if I had to spent all those years just curled up in a ball crying. I'd probably be dead. I had a massive heart attack
Yeah.
on my birthday a year and a half ago. I had triple bypass surgery. I
Well, you look great.
survived,
You look
and
great.
I am not. How can I, be miserable and sad? Yes, I've had now too. I always used to just say I had one really, really bad thing happen in my life.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have a good life. I
Yeah.
love my life because I love my family. Now I have to say, I've had two really bad things happen in my life, and then the same as everyone else. Yes, my ex has passed away. My parents have passed away. I've got siblings who passed away. Like my sister just passed away. Like a month and a half after my heart surgery, she died. But
Oh,
that's everybody's life. Mine just is a little extra added
well,
sadness with a
yeah,
missing person. Most people don't have a missing loved one. Everybody loses loved ones to sickness, to accidents and illness.
but you,
So I don't look at it as mine any worse, just but for a couple of really bad things.
yeah, and yeah, I'm looking at Jessie right here. This is the
Oh, yeah, one of your drawings you've done for her. Oh, my baby. Thanks
35.
to you, Diana. I've Jessie was 21 when she went missing, which is, you know, 21 teen, and she's barely out of her teens at that age. There's my baby.
Oh,
This picture, we went through a lot of investigating with it because as you can see in there, there's the reflection of somebody in her glasses
oh,
who
yes,
took her picture.
yes.
And we tried to find out if anybody would come forward and say, "Oh, that was just me." That was, but no one did. So, it made it seem more like why is even if it was Peter Todd, he could have said, I know you're trying to figure that out. Yeah, it was me. I took that beautiful picture of Jessie that you just love. But he hasn't even said that. So, it, little things like that, more than you would realize, are clues, you know.
And
Um,
then this one I love.
Jessie's 15th birthday. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Me and my girl.
This
It's
camera,
funny now though, because I'm probably not a heck of a lot older there than she is now, or she would be now,
it's a
because
beautiful
let's see.
picture. You look the same. You don't age. And that,
I have even my grade 7 picture still has that same face, but just a little older, more wrinkly and saggy, but the same face.
no, you look great. So yeah, continue. Oh, and here's this one too, right here.
Oh, Dwight and Jessie. That's on Jessie's graduation, which on June 1st
Yeah.
was 23 years ago since Jessie
Wow.
graduated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jessie's 10th grad year.
Mhm.
I got an invitation from her school to come and attend the 10th year graduation ceremony. They invited me and my husband, but of course, I still had kids at home. Well, when she went missing, the younger two were teenagers. One was a little bit of an older teenager, but there was still one at home, and my husband had to work. So I just said, "Well, I'll come out to Calgary and I'll go, but I'll go with her stepmom."
Yeah.
And the two of us went, and it was such an honor. Everybody honored Jessie that was there. She's just so gorgeous. And
Yeah.
then they opened their time capsule.
Structure. You have the same bone structure.
Oh,
You and
if
Jessie.
I could only have believed that I could have ever looked that gorgeous in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, they opened the time capsule and they had the thing that Jessie had written and put in there, and they gave it to me, and they gave me a t-shirt that well, there was a lot of things that were put in there, and they gave me a few gifts out of it, and it was just so honorable that her class would do that. That was in 2012. And then in probably about 2015 or maybe 2014, I got a message from a young woman whose sister graduated with Jessie in that class. The younger sister was the one that contacted me, and she was in journalism school, and the way she put it, paraphrasing, obviously, I can't remember exactly, but she said something like, they would talk about Jessie's case, dinner time and stuff. The family would talk about, this girl that she went to school with, and she said she always told me when I become a journalist, I have to do a story about Jessie. But she was still in school, and her partner wanted to do uh, a video. They wanted to do, uh, it was more or less just like to get marked on,
Yeah.
as a project. And I said, certainly, of course. So they came out to Kamloops and they interviewed me. They interviewed Crystal. I think they even went down to Las Vegas. They talked to people, talked to the police. They put together this absolutely phenomenal video. And there's
Nice.
still a website up today. It's just, if you were able to look up Vanishing Point, Jessie Foster, you'll find everything on there.
Oh,
And at one point, the the documentary part that they did was submitted to, I'm not even sure of the organization in Texas, and it won an award
nice.
for all their hard work.
Nice.
So I'm just so blessed because, that was kind of like a side thing, right? Okay, everybody that knew me and knew them and lived in Calgary and lived in Calgary, we all got to see this. We all could pass it on between ourselves. But now it's down there in the United States where she went missing, and it's being shared by other journalists, and it's
Nice.
being broadcast to other people, and it just like so many things. It just one of those things that came out of the blue
Yeah.
without any way for us to even know it was going to happen, and just raised so much more awareness for us. There was
Yes.
other things like when I first went down to Las Vegas, I had a picture taken of me from a reporter, and it got submitted, and it actually won a contest for
Oh,
and what that picture did, it got spread all over with Jessie's story attached. So it's just, to me, all those extra little things besides the investigation. Like, we've got you do all your work, wonderful. Gil Alba has done, been so supportive, done so many things. We've got Frank Mahoney from the Nevada Center for Missing Loved Ones who've done so many things. But we've also got people who will say, and this is so touching, I'm going to Las Vegas for a holiday. I'm going to take some posters with me and I'm going to put them up down there. And I'm like, no, 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 that's
yeah.
your holiday. You're not going down
Yeah.
there on a mission looking for Jessie. You're going there to have fun. You've earned this. This is your holiday. And they're like, I'm doing all that and I'm taking posters of Jessie. So it just comes from every angle, and it could be on a large scale, or it
Yeah.
could be just on one person putting up a few posters on some poles while
Yeah.
they're in Las Vegas. And I'm so touched by it that it people that don't know me won't understand why I say this, but it overrides any sadness. I'm heartbroken, but I'm no longer sad
Okay.
all the
Yeah.
time, or sad that Jessie has gone missing. Jessie's case has helped many.
Yeah.
So if it didn't happen, then there'd be a lot of people who didn't get help. A
Yeah.
lot more than just Jessie and I would have gone through this. So I can't say that I feel sad anymore. I get sad and my
Yeah.
heart is broken. Um, but I'm not a sad person. I'm actually. I'm a funny person, I'm a joyful person, I'm a loving person.
Yeah.
And anybody who has seen me through this, like you have all the years,
Yeah.
you have probably noticed, that that all has come back. It was gone for a long time,
Yeah.
but it has come back.
Mm,
And with you having worked with so many families,
yeah.
you've seen them too, like I have, where there have been, mothers who have died of broken hearts. There have been families that have been broken and separated by drugs and alcohol and just separated and never repaired. So many things that can happen to families that
Audrey, it's true. Yeah.
try to choose the love part and the leaning on each other. And, so when I kind of got my old personality started coming back.
Yes.
I can tell you, I was very grateful,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
I
I
no
know you're
longer
very
have
grateful.
the time.
And I think like that's why the universe is like everyone steps up and helps you because you have such a good heart and you are so grateful and you have so much love in you. And you have come a long way in this. Like before there was more like anger and sadness. I see more happiness now, which is really nice. It's nice.
Well, let me tell you, I was 49 years old, 48 years old when Jessie went missing.
Okay, yeah.
I'm almost 68 years old. I'm almost 70 years old. So I went from almost 50, which is still young,
Yeah.
to
And
almost 70, which is a senior citizen.
you're so
So
young.
so I've
People
had the
on
time.
45.
No, no,
People,
I'm on
yeah, you're
CPP.
so
I'm on old age pension. I got all that going on now. So I'm
young.
not
You're so
complaining,
young.
but that's the reality. Those 20 years have taken Jessie from 21 to 41,
Yeah.
me from 48 to 68,
Yeah.
and everything in between. Oh, my beauty. All the grandchildren that have come, and I mean, I've you know, with a grandchild born sleeping, two grandchildren born sleeping,
Oh,
losing my sister, losing so many people. But like I said already, to me, that
yeah.
doesn't make me a strong person because I'm able to, handle all that. That just tells me everybody has lost a family member and a friend and a loved one and a puppy, like even losing our fur babies,
Oh,
everything
yeah.
molds us as to how we are. Yes, there's your baby. Yeah,
Lost her
yeah,
18 days ago. She passed away 18 days ago. So it's
it's
been
just,
really hard. And she was with me when I drew Jessie.
yeah.
So
Oh,
many.
bless her heart. Bless your heart. And those are the things that make us human, that we all go through those heartbreaks. Thankfully, we don't all go through the heartbreak of a missing loved one. And as with Crystal, I'd mentioned that my oldest daughter passed away. She had a hard time with Jessie's disappearance. And then when her dad passed away in 2020, and COVID was just coming, so they were just beginning to be stuck at home. And she found her dad passed away downstairs in the home that she shared with him. And with those heartbreaks and being in an abusive relationship with a drug addict and a dealer, um, she became a user. She had, and don't get me wrong, she'd always dabbled in drugs, much to my distaste of it. But she went to raves. So she did recreational drugs like that. I've known that of Crystal since she was a young woman. Um, Nothing I was going to do to change that. Kids that she went to school with now, some of them still go to these raves.
Yeah.
That's just in their culture. That's what they do. Crystal's, unfortunately, with her pain and with the easy access to the drugs because of that person, it just became too easy for her to become addicted and not just do it recreational. And unfortunately, something was laced with fentanyl and she overdosed on fentanyl. And
I
as a meth user, we know that she did not intentionally use fentanyl. But we also are realistic and know that
yeah.
people put that stuff in everything. So
And
for it to have,
I remember when you called me in the morning and you said, I want you to hear it from me. Crystal just passed away. And I was so shocked.
October
I
4th,
was in my bedroom and I was like, I'm so sorry, Glendene. Eh,
I didn't know what to do. I'm like, okay, the kids are at school. We got to get the kids home. No, we have to wait for them for school to be out for them to come. Oh my God, I have to call my best friend. Oh, I have to got to call my sister. I got to call Diana. Oh my God, I have to tell everybody who loves Crystal. I got to put it on Facebook because that's how you reach everybody. And my kids are like, Mom,
Yeah.
wait, call Brenda, call Lisa, call the friends. We got Katie here from work. Jim came home from work. Jenny was calling them all, telling them you got to get home, and didn't know why. Katie had not too long before this had a child born sleeping. A baby was born sleeping. So when and Jenny was pregnant when this happened. So when Jenny called Katie at work and said, "Get here now," and then hung up, Katie told me later she thought something had happened to the baby. That's where her mind went because of her
Yeah.
trauma. She thought, "Oh no, something happened to baby." Thank God he's a little 3.5-year-old toddler
Right.
in our home
Right.
now, and the light of everyone's life. But she couldn't even have fathomed that that's what it would have been. And then when the kids all came home from school that day, we were all waiting in the living room for them to tell them the
Yeah.
horrific news about Auntie. um yeah. You know what the thing too is, these kids, it, I couldn't imagine knowing having this much tragedy in my life at their age, when I was their age, because they have had an auntie who's missing longer than they've been alive. They have
Yeah.
had an auntie overdose on drugs. They
Yeah.
have had an uncle commit suicide. And there have been so many tragedies like in between that maybe aren't quite as horrific as those, but there's still things. And to just think of these little babies living all these tragedies, in their life. And that was my main reason. And my oldest grandchild just graduated. Commencement was yesterday, last night, and
I seen
that was like 17 years ago. So
I seen the
yeah,
video of all that.
exactly, the cap throw.
I saw
um
that.
but I immediately thought, um there's I cannot let this affect my mental health in a way that's going to affect my family's mental health. I can't allow my grandchildren to have to whisper about Auntie Jessie,
Yeah.
behind my back because they didn't want to make me sad. I had to allow everybody to be happy. I took most of the trauma that I could on myself. I kept a lot of things to myself
Yeah.
for a long time, and and I still do for some things, because I wanted everyone else just to, have their kids, and the kids grow up and go to school and graduate and do everything and know that they've got these traumas in their life,
Yeah.
but their life is not traumatic. And I'm hoping that, through all of this, they're still going to, be happy, healthy, successful adults.
Yeah.
Because I know I couldn't imagine knowing all that. Having a sister die of leukemia at 24 when I was 14 was trauma enough for me.
I'm
I
sorry.
couldn't even imagine what these kids suffer
And
with, right? But
you show them, you show so much love and strength, and I'm so proud of you. And I know you've been through hell and back. I remember our conversations. I remember how tough it's been. Even the podcast, Can I Help Find Your Missing Loved One, the interviews I did with you, and then with Gil jumping in, and then with I wanted to talk a bit about Jessie for the people who don't know, so we can finish explaining why she's a human trafficking victim. Um,
yes,
and then also, I just wanted to read that from Ileana, what she wrote.
yes, that
And
was years ago too.
that
Yeah.
was, I think, a year and a half. So,
Was it? Okay, I thought it was longer. Okay.
so who's Ileana?
Ileana is my daughter Jenny's second child.
Nice.
She's 15. She's just finishing grade 10. She'll be in grade 11 next year.
Okay. So it's when I did Jessie's 40th. And so the light
Right.
is really,
That's right. Oh, that's right.
yeah, it's really
Yes.
getting distorted, but that's her, what she would look
No,
like at.
I can see it perfect. Yeah.
And so I read what you wrote, but you're here, so I don't have to read that, but I'll read this one. My name is Ileana, and I'm Jessie's niece. I never got to meet her, but I've always been told what she was like: humorous, smart, beautiful, and kind to all. I do like to research about the case because someday I want to figure out what happened to her. I don't think she's dead, to be honest. From what I've heard about her and seen in my family, I know she wouldn't give up without a fight, and no girl would leave her makeup at home like ever. Um,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish I could have got to spend time with her, and my mom and aunties and grandma and grandpa deserves more time with her. I miss Auntie Jessie and Auntie Crystal so much every day. And if Auntie Jessie isn't here, I just hope she's with her dad and sister in peace and without harm. Liliana.
No,
So,
my baby. Yeah.
so,
Yeah, they are very heartfelt children. Yeah.
and
Yes.
for we can talk a bit like with the broken jaw in the hospital, what just to give some information to everybody. And then when somebody said they knew where Jessie was buried, and when we were talking, you were crying and upset, and then Gil got involved in how this is what happens to families of missing loved ones. These predators come in and say stuff
Yep.
like that. So if you want to just talk
Yeah.
about that a bit.
Yeah. Well, about the broken jaw, what turned out was that Jessie did not fall and break her jaw, that um Peter Todd actually had broke her jaw by hitting her.
Mhm.
And it was because she was going to be coming, and he didn't want to leave and come up to Canada, and he wasn't going to let her come up by herself. And so when Jessie went missing, Dwight hired a private investigator and immediately found out about that. Immediately found that there was the hospital records, the broken jaw, and that she had been, besides being beaten, she was forced to work at an escort agency, and had even been arrested for solicitation of prostitution. He found that out so quickly that I can't even understand how it is that the police didn't mention any of this or come up with this, or maybe they didn't discover it. I don't know why. But we never got any of that from the police. So we found that out early on. And then I had all of Jesse's phone records because they were all in the phone plan came to my address. I had all of her bills, and I started going through the phone bills. And one of the numbers that was there consistently was the number to the escort agency, which I didn't know what it was at first, but I phoned there, and they have quite the racket going on. I phoned, and first it was like a little kid answered, and I'm like, is your mom there? No, whatever, right? Of course, it's not a little kid. It's a woman that sounds very young, trying to sound like it's a kid. And
Wow.
after, a few times, finally, I'm like, my name is Glendene Grant. My daughter is Jessie Foster, and I need to talk to the woman, whoever runs this escort agency. And I told her flat out, I knew that's what it was. Of course, she denied it. So we played that little, you must have the wrong number thing a few times. Finally, I got a phone call back from another woman who she said to me that she was one of the managers and that I was right, that
Mhm.
it was an escort agency. She believed she knew who Jessie was, but that she went by the name of Taylor, and that she would pass this information on to, I believe it was, at first I thought like the main manager, but I believe she was the owner, and she was already like over 70 by then, so like she was a very older woman, and I got a call back from her, and we talked a lot, and I told her about Jessie being missing, and she had told me she had seen a couple of articles in the paper about Jessie, and that she believed Jessie was being forced to work there. She had she didn't know for sure, and she kind of wanted to keep an eye on her. Otherwise, she would have just not let her come back at all. But what would happen is Jessie would show up. She might have bruises on her. She would take Jessie into a back office. She told me many times, I told her, little girl, go home. Little girl, you don't belong here. Little girl, what are you doing here? I offered to buy her a plane ticket. I offered to send her back to Canada. And all she could say is, I'm too afraid to leave. And so that's how we came to know for sure that she was being forced to work at an escort agency. um I over the years I started kind of feeling bad for that older woman for a couple of reasons. One is, well, she had told me her story. She was forced to work at an escort agency. She was beaten, she was at a pimp, all these things when she was younger, and then the older she got, she started running what she considered was an above board, respectable escort agency, illegal as it is. You know, they it wasn't like run by mobs or anything. And she said I wouldn't have kept Jessie around other than me wanting to kind of keep an eye on her and knowing that she might have arranged dates for Jessie, but they would have been arranged anyway. So I really understand how she could, I don't want to use the word justify it to herself because I think she was perfectly in her right to do that, and I'm glad she did, or I would never have heard anything. Um, but I kind of feel bad that for how she must have felt over the years since Jessie's been missing, knowing that, she should have just like dragged her to the airport, or knowing that she should have called the police, or she should have made her, give her my number,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of survivor's guilt with things, and I can imagine that she felt really bad over the years. But she loved Jessie. I know she did.
Yeah.
She talked really highly of her as far as a good person. She didn't belong there. She kept telling me that. And I know Jessie didn't belong there because Jessie was a sweet, innocent girl young woman who never in her wildest dreams would have wanted to go to Las Vegas to become a prostitute.
No, no. And yeah, what you showed up at Peter Todd's house, correct?
Yeah, my friend Brenda and I went down there. I went down a couple times, once with Dwight, but the first time was with Brenda. And we went down there to the house that Jesse was living in. He had moved out. We looked in the windows and we could see it was empty of most things, but we also could see a couple of gowns that were hanging on a hook when we looked through one of the windows. And I had remembered he told me one time that all of Jesse's stuff was gone, except her hair dryer and makeup. And then one day he went to get clothes from the dry cleaners, and these two dresses of Jesse's were there. And so he just left them there. So I'm assuming that that's what those were.
Mhm.
Well, very, like very fancy, beautiful, dresses, right? So I know that those must have been that. But we looked around. We looked to see if the ground looked disturbed in the back, to see if maybe he had dug up a hole. We put posters all over the neighborhood. We knocked on the neighbors' doors. We went in and talked to the neighbors. Many of the neighbors, knew Jessie as a really sweet, friendly girl who would wave and always smile at everybody and talk to everybody. And when she was coming home, like because her car was in Canada, but she had access to Peter Todd's vehicles, and they would see her driving and everything. But one thing that they made clear to us was that where they lived in North Las Vegas, there was no transit,
Okay.
and the only way to come and go was either a vehicle or taxi. There was no even Ubers back then, and so for Jessie to be gone and for all those vehicles to be still there, somebody would have had to take her.
Yeah.
The investigation on our end found that there was no known taxis that came to get her, unless it was somebody who also worked with the traffickers and just did it off the books, or just did, who knows? It might have just been, you know, them, right? Who did it. It wasn't Jessie leaving in a taxi to go somewhere.
Yeah. I remember you tell me that you called him or he was not that polite to you the one time, right?
What's that?
You talked to him once. Was he rude to you?
Oh, I talked to him several times, and yeah, he was quite curt. He anything that happened was, Jessie did this, and he was, nothing but wonderful to her. And that when I first tried to when we first went to Las Vegas, and I was phoning him and trying to get him to meet with us, he said he just didn't have time. He'd answer the phone. Oh, I can't, I'm busy. And then it just so happened one of our nights out, um, there was a torrential rainstorm. And I'm thinking, we're in Las Vegas
Mhm.
and it's like desert, and I've never heard of anything like it. And it rained so hard that we were stuck under overhangs as we were walking down the street, and trying to hand out posters. We were putting posters up on poles, and then we'd run to the next bus stop and hover under that one, and it just was massive. We were blown away by how hard it was raining. But while we were under one time, this man he's also hovering, and he asks for a poster. He sees what we're doing, and we start talking about Jessie, and he tells us he's from Texas, and he's actually used to be a Texas Ranger. He's got a lot of Texas Ranger friends, and he goes to Las Vegas often. And he said, you know what, I'll tell you what, me and my friends will come back here next week, because we are telling him that Peter Todd would refusing to meet us. And he goes, well, you tell him that you're going to come back in a month and you're going to meet up with some Texas Rangers, and he'll want to meet with you. And so I did. I phoned him and I told him this. And the next morning he showed up at the hotel and met with us,
Oh, wow.
knowing that we were leaving in a couple of hours to come back to Kamloops.
And what was he
So,
like then?
um, well, he's from Jamaica, so I'm sure he's got some spiritual things that he believes in, you know, in his way. Um, but I said, hey, this is my friend Brenda. And Brenda reached out her hand to shake his hand, and he started to reach out his hand. And I said, she's psychic. And she isn't, but she gets goosebumps and all these silly
Yeah.
things, right? But, you know, I'll ask her, what do you think of this? And I'll take her feelings. Her gut feeling to me is like, you know, that's the word. He jumped back, he put his hand behind his back, and he refused to shake her hand. And we just thought, I wonder
Yeah.
why somebody who believes in mystic stuff doesn't want to shake the hand of somebody who, you know, might be a psychic. Anyways, I thought it was quite amusing, and I thought that it kind of told a tale on him.
Yeah. It's and what about when someone got in touch with you saying they knew where Jessie was, about the Bitcoin and stuff?
Well, are you talking about the guy that said about Jessie being buried?
Yeah, and the Henderson police were involved in Gil.
Yes, yeah. Well, he had um we had a $50,000 reward that Dwight had put up for Jessie, for information leading to her whereabouts, you know, alive or not. And it didn't even have to, you know, be anybody had to be charged. We just had to get her. And we got a phone call from somebody who was trying to extort $3,000 out of us, telling us that he knew where she was. And but it wasn't just send me this money, and you know, he's like, you have to come down here, you have to give me the money in cash, you have to do all these things. Well, I have a friend who has a brother who is a businessman, who said we could pretend that our cop was him. Okay, so we had this elaborate plan. The detective in North Las Vegas, who is our most recent cop, and even though I haven't said wonderful things about North Las Vegas, he has been the best cop we've had on this case. He was going to pretend to be this man, and that he was just in Las Vegas from Canada there, you know, with the boys, because one of the guys is getting married, and he was going to take this money to him and meet him with it and give it to him. And you know, so we were following along everything that they tried to say. They first, like you mentioned, they wanted Bitcoin, then they wanted cash, then we had to be in person, then we had somebody to be in person, and we had the cash. And then he's like, okay, well, instead of Las Vegas, we want you to meet us in Arizona. You know, we're getting nervous. So it just all this weird stuff. And all I could think in my head is, if you really knew where she was,
Yeah.
you would call the police and get a $50,000 reward. You wouldn't play all these games for 3,000. So, but you know, it's just, even though it wasn't, it was just one of many things that people put us through, trying to extort money out of us.
You
Nothing would surprise you
no,
as to what people would do.
I remember when we were talking on the phone, you were really sad and you thought she was buried like in the driveway. And then I said, let me get Gil involved, Gil Alba, the private investigator. And then when he stepped in and talked to the Henderson police, that helped a lot. And then we found out the guy was from Nigeria or something. It was,
Yeah, he was.
yeah,
And it wasn't really in the driveway. What he had said was they had built a garage over where her body was, so that her body was actually underneath the floor of the garage. Like, you know, the story just kept getting more and more and more. You know, it was that the body in Henderson, um I think that the only reason that they and with Jessie too, the reason that they use smaller towns like Henderson and North Las Vegas, that's from her graduation night. that they have a smaller police department, right? Otherwise, they would, say it was in Las Vegas. But Henderson is also where Lindsay Harris went missing from. And that was 20 years ago on May 5th. May 5th of '05 is when she went missing. And, and there's so many things, I mean, and speaking of Lindsay and Jody and, um, oh, my mind totally went blank and I apologize.
I just
But
wanted to
anyways,
say,
the women,
it's so rude how people do that. Like you're going through
yes,
stuff, families of missing loved ones go through the mental torture, and then somebody calls and they say they know something all about, and it's all about money, and it's
yeah,
so crooked. Like
yeah.
that hurt me so much because you've been through so much, your family's been through
It,
so much, and you don't need people playing games like that.
it just makes you wonder how, yeah, I mean, we all wonder how can somebody do that, but you got to wonder how mentally ill somebody has to be
Yeah.
to put somebody through any additional pain, than they have to. Most people, they try to console you, then there's the ones that just that, you know, maybe if they make you cry and wear you down and give you hope, you'll, send money, I've never sent a dime to anybody. I've never um to be honest, I've never really believed any of the tips.
Okay.
And the reason I haven't believed any of the tips is because what I did know and what I was told just didn't add up. Like telling me, I mean, there was, the times where they thought Jesse was um, picked up and killed by a truck driver serial killer. Well, we all know that Jesse wasn't working out of a truck stop, like, so there's so many tips and things that I didn't even waste a minute thinking about. Then there's many people who are only trying to help. They'll
Mhm.
see a case, because there's a lot of online sleuths. There are a lot of them.
Yes.
And their hearts are in the right place. They're not trying to make a buck off you. They're just trying to find people, find tattoos that look like other ones, trying to find somebody's face that matches. And I've had many pictures from cases of missing or murdered women
Yeah.
where I've been asked if this is Jesse. And for the most part, all I have to do is go, no.
Yeah.
But I always share them with my kids because I'm like, that could be just me thinking, nope, nope.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to just assume, right? So as much as I know in my heart, and I know that my kid couldn't change enough for me to not recognize her, I've
Yeah.
never been where I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this one, maybe this one, this, not from any pictures that I've seen have I ever felt that.
I
But
think,
we've had others where, it's been like forensic art
yeah.
of a deceased person. Well, you can't really tell with a forensic one because it's not a snapshot. So the features could be. So,
Yeah.
through one of those, we
Like
had
facial
our DNA
reconstruction.
submitted.
I remember the facial reconstruction from years ago. You're like, do you think so? And I'm like,
Yeah, because the teeth
oh,
look similar.
yeah,
And yeah, so, that was one that I did.
of
I
course.
put a little more thought into a maybe.
Yeah.
Dwight and I both had to go down to our local police departments and get a DNA test sent to I think it's the University of North Texas, and then they confirmed that it was not Jesse. What it was remains of a young woman Jesse's age that was found burnt, so they
Oh,
couldn't, they had to do the reconstruction. And she did look similar enough, like I say, that I
yeah.
went and got DNA tested. And
Oh,
because with the DNA, Jesse's fingerprints because she had been arrested,
yeah.
mugshot because she had been arrested, her dental work because she had braces when she was in high school. We've got everything that we need. We
Yeah.
just need either to find her or some remains that would match what we
So,
have.
like in your heart, because I want to also talk about math, what you've done there is amazing. But in your heart, what do you believe happened? And do you think she could be alive today?
Well, several years ago, I stopped trying to still figure out, what I thought. I
Okay.
absolutely have no idea.
Okay.
I always felt she's alive because I've never felt like a snap in my heartstring like I did with Crystal, knowing full well Crystal's gone. My heartstring snapped. My love is there, but the connection to the mental telepathy, whatever you want to call it, between you, that part has severed. Now she's in my heart and in my memories. Jesse's didn't do that.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I don't know if some of it is she is alive, some of it is my wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. But I'll tell you, when Dwight passed away, I told Crystal that to honor him and his belief that Jessie has passed away and did right away, like he thought she's always been gone, I would have her declared deceased.
Mhm.
But Crystal died the next year and I hadn't done it yet. And so, and I still haven't because somewhere either I'm just too lazy to do all the paperwork, which I don't think it is,
You're not lazy.
or something in me
Yeah.
doesn't quite have me going 20 damn years. You think I'd be ready to do all this? I mean, I would never do anything financially, but there's money sitting there waiting because it's in Jessie's name. There's, her dad's life insurance, there's her bank account, there's, her settlement that she got from a car accident. So there's money that's just sitting there growing that could be put to use for our grandchildren and stuff. But she has to be declared deceased before that can be released. And so I'm not quite there, I think. Like I say, or I just don't want to do all the paperwork. But I kind of feel guilty because I did tell Crystal I would do it, and then she passed away before I could. So I feel like I didn't keep my word. So I don't know. I'm up in the air on that. I mean, if I had somebody that walked in my house today, had a packet of papers, said, "Let's sit down and fill all these out, and we'll go file them, and we'll do this," and then all you have to do is like, I was going to say write a check, but who does that? Give you a card. I would probably say, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
But for me to get the motivation to want to go and get it started, I just don't
Yeah.
have it.
Because Denise Horvath Allen, I remember when Charles Horvath Allen was declared deceased, what she went through, and it was very hard.
Very hard because
Really,
you don't.
Smolinski, like with Jan Smolinski's going through, like it's so hard for everyone. It's so
And
hard.
those cases that you just mentioned are old ones, right? But it doesn't matter how long your child's missing for. If you don't have, any remains,
Yeah.
then, you're not, you might be like, yeah, they've got to be, it's been long enough. Yeah, they absolutely must be. But what if they're not?
I
So you
know.
can try to convince yourself all you want. But either way, like I said, I just don't know. And I used to think I knew
Yeah.
because my heart didn't tell me she was gone.
Yeah.
And I do know the difference between Crystal gone and Jessie missing right
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Diana. I don't know. And I think for me, Jessie coming home and me looking her in the eye like I'm looking at you right now and me telling her I thought she was dead. I don't
Yeah.
think I could do that.
Yeah.
So I would rather her be gone and me not say she is than her not be gone and me say she is.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a conflicting thing. It's one of the things that I mull over on my own. I don't discuss that and I don't ask other people, what do you think I should do? Or let's go do this, or how do I do this? Where will I go? I do think this is my thing. This will
Do
be
you know
mine.
what? This is what I love about you, like with all my heart. Like I can feel my heart pounding fast listening to you because you're so real, you're so genuine, and you just speak honestly. And I think it will help a lot of people when they hear what you're saying. Like you're amazing, Glendene. Don't ever say,
You know
"Oh,
what?
you are amazing. You've done
We've been lied
so much."
to enough, okay? We've been lied to by the people who did something to our children. We've been lied to by the cops who, for some of us, have been told that things have been done where we know that they haven't because we passed on tips, contacted the tipper, and they've never been called. We know that. We've had enough people lead us astray or tell us that they'll help us. And I just want people to know this is the way, this is it. This is my life. My life is not me crying all the time and sobbing myself to sleep every night because I have a missing daughter and Crystal passed away. My life is not out jet setting around. I'm a senior citizen. I still work a couple of jobs, part-time jobs, because financially I have to, because having a missing loved one takes all your money. So my husband and I are entering our golden years. Well, I'm entered, he's entering. He's turning 65 this year. We're both still working out of necessity. So we're not getting ready to, spend our winters in Mexico. We will be working probably till we die because OAS and CPP, which is our Canada Pension Plan and our old age pension, just don't cut the mustard here in Canada. So we need the extra income. So I just want people to know that our life is just our life. I don't want sympathy. I feel really bad when I have to tell a new person about Jessie, and by have to tell, if somebody doesn't know about Jessie, I have to tell them. I don't
Yeah.
care. Jessie needs to be known by everyone. But then they tear up and I'm consoling them because
Yeah.
this is new. And I'm telling them something that I've been talking about for 20 years. Doesn't
No.
make me cry every time I think about it. But I'm dropping something on somebody who in the few minutes maybe that we've just met and talked, and they've maybe, thought I was nice, and then I'm like, and all of a sudden I'm like dumping one of the most horrific stories they've ever heard on them, and it upsets them. And then I console them, but then they leave knowing who
Mm.
Jessie Foster is. They leave
Yes.
knowing that human trafficking is real. They
Yes.
leave knowing that there are ways that we live our lives and do everything we need to do to be productive and stay safe, but we do not have to be looking over our shoulders and worried all the time. Like I get in my car, I lock my door. My granddaughter gets in there,
Same.
she locks it. We don't even, sometimes we lock the door before we close it because there's certain things that we do that we
Yeah.
have to do because we want to stay safe.
Yeah.
These are just part of our lives, you
Yeah.
know. Doors are locked, windows are locked, everything's locked up. That's you just got to, and I suppose, and you mentioned math a bit ago, which is Mothers Against Trafficking Humans. Part of my reason for starting that, which was April 18th, 2010, was when I started math. And it's not an organization, it's more like more kind of a grassrootsy thing where I'm just there, people need to talk. I get and it's been a while now, but I've been invited to speak all over Canada about human trafficking, about Jessie, about missing and murdered Indigenous women. I'm on a couple of boards. I'm on the board of advisors even for
Mm.
a couple of human trafficking organizations where we basically just want to let people know it's there. We don't want to scare you. We
Yeah.
want you to know that, yeah, my daughter was trafficked, um, but we're not living in fear. We want people to know that, you know, people get kidnapped and murdered, but stay safe and still live your life. So it's kind of like it's a mesh together of staying safe and enjoying life. I try not to scare people. I try
Yeah.
not to overwhelm people. I try to um, give people advice that would coincide with their age group. Like when I talk to students in school, like I'll tell them, you want to, nowadays, especially, you meet somebody, check out their online profile. If you meet a really cute kid, a guy, I'll go with a guy, you're a girl, you meet the cutest boy, well, look online because if he's online and he's talking crap and if he's, disrespecting women or if he's, acting like a tough macho, whatever, if he's got guns or money, pictures up, you know what? Run.
Yeah.
You know somebody who has two cell phones, there's a reason. You know a girl in grade 11 who's got $80 nails and $200 hair and, $300 shoes. Tell somebody something's going on. Your best friend suddenly has nothing to do with your group of friends anymore because she's always with that boyfriend. And one day she's got a bruise on her arm. One day she might have a black eye. Tell somebody. But the thing is, you can do the looking up yourself off your phone. You can see how does he portray himself to his friends and to the public when if he wants to be a tough guy, or if you go on there and you see that his picture was him and his mom on Mother's Day and there's him taking his dog out for a run, like those are pretty positive
Yeah.
scenarios, and sure, it could be just all a ploy, but I think that would be a little safer direction to go than somebody who's showing off, thousands of dollars with guns beside them, and like some of those guys do, right? So I try to just keep things in an age group. I try to let moms know and dads know, yes, worry about your kids. Like we all worry about our kids, like our parents worried about us. But don't chase them away. Um, Try to be on their side. Try to understand as much as you can. Try to talk to them and tell them about Jessie. Tell them about all the Jessie Fosters that you know about. Tell them, show them a picture of Jessie. See this beautiful girl. Oh my God, look at how much she looks like you. Guess what? You know, like
Yeah.
incorporate these stories into your supper talk.
Mm.
Now back in the day, it used to be sit down. How was your day? It was fine. How was school? It was great. Why, you keep your kids safe by talking about the things you need to. The younger they are, stranger danger. The older they are, you
Mm.
know, worrisome boyfriends, and the first time he does anything to you that he has to say, I'm sorry for,
Yeah.
that's when you have to start thinking. That's when you need to tell your best friend, you need to tell your mom. And if you're close enough, you tell his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, I couldn't, he backhanded me, he pushed me, he locked me out of the car, he left me on the corner and drove away. You know, if that's just the first thing and he's sorry and he has flowers,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to wait.
I'll be honest with you. I was in a relationship when I was 18 for 4.5 years, and there was a lot of abuse where I had bruises, my clothes were torn off, all kinds of stuff like that. And he always said sorry. He always said sorry. He cried, I cried. I always forgave him. And then one day I said, I'm done. And that was it.
Yeah.
And and nobody knew but my best friends. Like my mom didn't know, my dad didn't know, and I covered up. I'd wear sunglasses, I would hide the bruises. But I look back now and I wish I loved myself enough not to have taken that. But you get blinded because you think it's love.
Yeah,
And they're
you
saying
think it's love, exactly.
they're
Love
saying
doesn't hurt. I'll
no.
tell you when love hurts. Love hurts when someone you love dies, or when someone you love gets really sick with cancer. That hurts. You love them so much it hurts. But
Make you
it
cry.
doesn't leave a bruise.
Yeah.
you know, there's a
Right.
different kind of hurt.
And love hurts.
Emotional hurt is, yeah.
Love hurts when your dog dies too. My little Hendrix died.
That's your family. He's your baby. You
Yeah.
know,
That
I was actually just thinking about our cat Kitty the other day. She's trying to figure out how old she is now, and I don't know why I want to worry about it so much. We've got two dogs, and Matt's got a gecko, and I just think, oh my gosh, there's so many things that, and not just me, because I'll be there to hold them, but there's so many things in my kids' lives that they're gonna lose, and with animals, they're gonna lose them, in the next 5, 10 years or so, and Papa and I, we often talk about, oh my God, there are times we wish we were not as close to our grandchildren, because the closer we are, the more it'll hurt. The older we get, the closer we are to our sunset. And yes, I don't feel old. Yes, I might look the same as I did 20 years ago, but look, look up close. But the thing is, we know it's coming, and
not for a
doesn't
long.
matter if your grandkids are 8 or if they're 28. It's going to be a really tough thing, right? Um, but I always try to tell them, I do things with them that I want them to remember. Like when I hug my kids, and
Squeeze
I
it.
breathe,
Mm.
and they know I'm breathing them into my soul.
Nice.
And so those are the things that they're going to remember. And when they talk to their kids about grandma, like my grandma used to always breathe me into her soul, and
Their
stuff.
grandma's will be here for a long time, a long, long time.
Yeah.
You went to Ottawa for the bill. It's bill what for the math?
Well, that was Bill C-36. And let me see if I can remember the name. It's the protection of exploited persons, but what it wasn't just exploited persons. What we tried to do is change the laws in Canada from making prostitution a legal thing to an illegal thing. The bill passed. It's been 10 years. Um, we wanted it to be illegal because at the time prostitution was legal, but but what they call brothels, I mean bawdy houses in Canada, which are brothels, and pimps were illegal. So the laws were struck down, deeming that prostitution was dangerous as a legal profession, with those things being illegal. If I can't do it out of a safe house, if I can't have protection, then you're telling me I can be a prostitute, but I'm out there facing danger. They wanted it all legal, struck it down. We fought, we won. Everything is illegal now. And so prostitution is illegal, but we're not trying to arrest everybody who chooses prostitution. If you are choosing prostitution out of a necessity, and you get caught in a sting, you get arrested, you're not going to jail for that. You're not going to suffer harsh punishments. But you know what? The pimp who forced you out there doing it against your will, that's who they want to get. They want to get the Johns that are doing this. And so what they're doing is trying to reduce the harm to the women that, say, hey, you know what? I've got kids at home, and I'm studying to be a nurse, and I've got years of schooling, and I can't find a job that will fit in my schedule, that will pay me enough to go to school and raise my children. I'm going to do this. And that's perfectly fine if that's what they want to do. None of us would want our daughters to do it, but you know what? None of us are in a position where that might be one of our choices that we have to make. And so that's why we wanted to not impact people who are choosing it. But we have another thing.
You are so
Yeah.
smart. You are so smart.
We have something else going on right now, actually. That's the one law that we've changed, and Jessie's law in Canada. But right now we're working on a bill down in Nevada where we're trying to change the statute of limitation on when victims and families of victims have to sue the perpetrators of crime. It used to be a 2-year statute of limitation, and that started at the time of the crime, which means that they might not even be caught in 2 years, or the family might not even be healed enough to start that process in 2 years. And it's ongoing right now. Last week, or 3 weeks ago, I testified. Last week, I testified again to the senators. I submitted my letter that was hand delivered to each of the senators in the Nevada State Senate, and coming directly from my heart. And so we're trying to change the law down there. And Diana, if I might boast, that means we will have 2 laws, 2 countries, all passed in Jessie's name. And so when you ask, or when anyone asks me, how is it that you can not be sad by Jessie's disappearance, I'll say,
Yeah.
too much good has come of it.
Mhm.
I'm saddened, I'm
Yeah.
heartbroken, but I'm not a sad person because of it. I have um, accepted it enough in my life as part of my life. It's just like anybody who makes a choice in their life, and over the years that molds them into what they are. Like, say we knew somebody who used to be a police officer, and now that person does art to help families of the missing. Well, your previous job shaped you into what
Oh,
you're doing
that was
today.
auxiliary police officer. I didn't have a gun, but no, the
But you know
friend.
what? You don't need a gun, because what you did got you to where you are today. And that's what I mean. We mold our way into it. Every step we take, it might not feel like that's where we're headed until we get there. But everything that we did, everything that you did, I mean, you working with law enforcement the way you did got your heart in that direction. You've probably seen more victims through that job than anybody would see through a job.
Honestly, it was the cancer. When I had cancer 24 years ago, that was when I prayed to God. I just found out that night. It was the worst night of my life. And I said, please, God, help me get through this. And I'll help so many people. And then I picked forensic art and I trained under the masters. And as of today, I finished 250 law enforcement cold cases and I beat the cancer. And because
Yes.
that's my calling, was to stand by the victims of crime. And and the blessing is, you're in my heart. Like, out of my autobiography that I'm working on right now, there's like, I'm doing the forensic art book. That's the next, because I've already started, but the autobiography's 90% done. And I'm only picking 4 stories out of 250 cases, and Jessie's one. So Jessie has her own chapter. And because
Gosh, it's
you
amazing.
you've always been so genuine, and you've always been so grateful. And with me, when people are authentic and they really appreciate, it just touches my heart so much. Like, you're the real deal. And how much I just remember, like, you've come so far, because I remember how much pain you went through, and you would tell me, oh, when Jessie was little, she would burp the alphabet. Remember? Yeah, she would burp the alphabet.
And now Ileana can do that.
All the fun times you guys all had together. And then when Jessie was at the airport, she looked back at Crystal, and Crystal knew something was wrong. And then how Crystal carried all that guilt. And then Crystal wrote a book. Like, I remember
Oh,
every
Jenny actually wrote the book.
Jenny wrote,
My
yeah.
youngest, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was Crystal, though, that was
But
at the
Crystal, the one that Jessie looked back at her big sister, they exchanged a look. Crystal said, Mom, I don't know what she's trying to say. Years later, she said, Mom, that look, she told me, don't let me go. Stop me, don't let me go. But she didn't know, so she didn't stop her. And she carried that. She carried that guilt that Jessie was beseeching her with her eyes. And
like
she didn't know.
I remember the pain through the years. Every time we would talk, or the interviews for the podcast and stuff, and it was just like you've came a long way, as in, I know the love is so huge for Jessie and Crystal. I know you,
Yeah.
and how you're so excited now, how you've helped so many people because of it. So you turn something so negative and painful into something so positive, and to serve on such a big level. So
Well, that's what we have to do. It doesn't
I
matter
know.
what the calling is. Like
Yeah.
it could be anything. Um, but if that's what you know, then you just need to share it, you know. So and like, you know, you kind of said, oh, and you just kind of, oh, I'm not this, I'm not, and I'm not, because what I am, I'm like, I'm a kid who was raised on a farm in Lillooet, little town Lillooet, couple of years of school in Ashcroft and the big city of Kamloops, which I think just a few years ago we toppled 100,000 people. Um, you know, so for me, you know, I just think of myself. I think of Kamloops as a big town, and my husband thinks of Kamloops as a city. Um, I just feel like my roots are plain. They're simple. They're down to earth. I next month, July, is my 50th high school reunion. You know, I've been here, you know, forever. It feels like, maybe not quite. And I'm just trying to do everything that I need to do. Last night was a high school graduation, and next month is a 50th high school reunion. You know, when Matt was born, I was 50 years old. So everything that happens between Matt and myself, there is a 50-year span of difference in age. And
Hair is so cool.
oh gosh, right? That red hair. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'll go through some of the pictures and just tell me, like, so this right here. So Jessie would be blonde, she'd be brown, she'd have curly hair, straight hair. How old
Yeah.
was she here, roughly?
Well, when I'm trying to think of most of Jessie's pictures, that was after she finished high school, but before she went missing. So I'm putting her at 19 there, you know, like under 20, because she was 20 when she went down on the first trip.
And then, of course, and that the
And
graduate.
that was 18. Yeah, she was 18. She turned 18 on May 27th, graduated June 1st. 18 years old is the age for drinking in Alberta. So she got to wear the wristband at the graduation, where she got to drink champagne. And a lot of the other kids who didn't turn 18 until after that date, they couldn't. So she was always quite glad that she turned that age. And then that was Jessie's 15th birthday with me. That was her. Now that was at 834 Dominion. That's the house I raised my kids in. And 834 is our angel number. We see it all the time. All the
Oh, it's
time.
so spiritual too. And I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And then
Yeah.
here.
And that one was down in Las Vegas. So I'm saying 21 for that one. And we don't even know really whose car she's in. We're assuming it was Peter's car. And we think that might be him or somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a magnifying glass and look into that, but in here.
Now that was at her prom. Like that was the night. That was graduation night after the dinner, or at the dinner, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a golden prom dress.
Beautiful. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
and that actually is the same as that first picture you showed. I'm saying, you know, 19 years old in that one. There was just a couple different shots of her with that white top on or light blue top on.
And then we have here one of the missing person posters.
Yes, that you've made for her. Yes, definitely. And that one picture up on the top is when she was on the side of a bus in London, Ontario. They did a campaign, and it was called Shine a Light, where they shine a light on missing and murdered women. It's to raise awareness to abuse, women abuse. And so Jessie was picked to be one of the women that they did their campaign on. That was several years ago, 2000 and I think it was 17. And they had billboards of her. They had a city bus with her picture on it. And we chased that bus down to get that picture. Yeah. I'm like, there it is. We got it. And I chased after it with my camera to get a picture of Jessie on the side of that.
Oh, I had something to say. I hope I don't remember. I hope I remember it. And then again, I have so many of Jessie through the years, but that
Oh,
was
right.
uh,
Oh, that,
so,
yeah, I'm not. That was the last one you did, wasn't it?
oh, that was
40th?
the 35. This was the
I need
40.
to go through my file to see each one. Oh, yeah, that was, yeah, my Jessie. That's when you did her hair curly. Um, yeah, I see Jessie, her eyes. Every time you do her eyes, you do them so spectacular.
I wrote a bit like here. So Jessie was always beautiful. Her eyes are full of life. Her smile has such an inviting, innocent smile. She has a beautiful smile, like you have the same smile because you would post pictures of you before, and then with Jessie, and you have the same bone structure, the proportion.
Yeah.
And her hair has always been so stylish, whether it's blonde or brown, straight or curly. She always looks so beautiful. Her eyes are the mirror of the soul, full of curiosity, youthfulness, and life. And then through this, I have I know it's hard because when I look at it here, you see the shading, but on there, it's hard to
I
see.
don't know, it's not too much shading. Yeah.
Yeah, so deeper set
Beautiful.
eyes, the eye wrinkles more visible at age 40 and under eye sags a little bit in here. And then I have the corners of her mouth are more pronounced. The center of her chin is tighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put this in on social media. And the neck appears more softer. The chin is there's more separation through here. And let me just there's Jessie. Yeah, so May 27th, she turned 40 last year, so she's 40, it should be 41 day if
She
she.
just turned 41 last week. Yeah.
And what would you want Jessie to hear right now, whether she's still here or not? What would your message be to her?
Well, there would be two messages. If she was still here, I would want her to say, Jessie, thank you for holding on and staying strong through the fight for us to find you. We'll never give up. And if there's ever a chance for you to get away or to let us know where you are, you do that. You let us know. If she's not here, I would want her to know that I'm so proud of everything that she has done in her life before and after her disappearance. If Jessie's disappearance led to her death, then what that did was raise awareness to thousands, if not even 1 million people in this world. It has saved women from making the same choices. It has allowed other women to know that there's options and to see what can happen. And everything that has been done in your name, I am so proud because if it wasn't for this horrific thing and you losing your life, being robbed of your life, and only being allowed 21 years on this earth, I am sad for that, but I am so proud of you because you're the one. If it wasn't for her giving me the strength to do that, I'm sure of it. And I give my mom a lot of credit too. My mom's the strongest woman I know. So I am my mother's daughter, but I'm also Jessie's mother. And between all of that, they have given me the strength to do this. So that makes me also proud of her. That means that she's guided us through everything that we've done. She's allowed the ones that she needed in heaven to go to her, such as Layla Ann, Katie's baby. She was born sleeping 13 years ago, and Crystal and her dad and all of them. And my parents have passed away. Jim's parents have passed away. Dwight's parents have passed away. Dwight has lost several siblings. I've lost several siblings. So that just means that their family is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, up in heaven. But the strength behind all of them is the strength that pushes us to be.
Yeah.
And I need to be as sane and normal as possible. I've got grandkids coming up in a world that I wouldn't want to be young in this day and age. With
Yeah.
all the stuff we see, with the homelessness, the drug addiction, where we live, there's always stuff going on. If it's not, fires being lit, the people are dying, um, drowning, overdosing, starving, freezing. I just couldn't imagine raised up as that, as just the way things are. To me, that that's not how it is. That's not how it should be. And I still find it astounding. Whereas, people are like, you know, and then when you think it's really bad where you are, everybody says that's like that everywhere. It's like that
It's
everywhere. I mean, you can't afford food. Families are multi-generational living together like we are now. And for the most part, it's financial. For a lot of it, it's because we choose to. We get along wonderfully. And but I don't know what it would be like if we all were paying $2,000 and $3,000 a month just to have a nice home, because that's what the prices are nowadays. And so I'm just grateful that we can do all this. And I just want everybody to know that um I'm not a strong person. I am just somebody getting through my life. I developed coping skills. Mine just happened to be talking. Someone else's might be something else. So it doesn't have to be anything specific. It's just whatever helps you cope to get through. Once I was able to develop coping skills, I was able just to live my life. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing anything spectacular. Like a couple of weeks ago, we did a thing with another organization here in town, and I'm talking to you today. And you know what? Um, before I did this, I was at work, and as soon as I hang up, I'll go up and have supper. Like it's nothing spectacular. It's just this is my life, and for the most part, I don't want anyone to think that it's anything more than that because we're just regular people, you know.
well,
And sometimes, like, no, maybe I am being stronger as we speak, but that doesn't mean that that's, the thing.
I think you're remarkable, and I know you've helped so many people, so many people. Like even with this, when this goes out, it's going to help so many people. You've opened my eyes to certain things when you talked about the human trafficking and how you talk to the kids at different ages and saying, this is Jessie and she kind of looks like you at that age and da 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 at the dinner table. Like I was like, wow, like that's really smart. Just like so I've learned a lot from you just now and I'm sure everyone's going to learn a lot. So you are remarkable. You are, okay? You are. I think.
So are you, though. So there we go.
And then so help bring Jessie home. If anyone knows where Jessie is today, we want you to call Glendene. It's okay, I give your number. Yeah. 250-299-3694 and or the North Las Vegas Police Department at 702-633-9111. And of course, you can call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. I think the best person to contact would be Glendine if somebody knows some like a legit tip. Again, 250-299-3694. And Gil Alba's amazing private investigator. He was with the NYPD for first grade detective 28 years. And then now he's best private investigator all through New York, around the world. And he's very sharp. And the way he thinks, it's amazing. So you can Google Gil Alba if you have information too. And again, so Jessie Edith Louise Foster is a Canadian woman who disappeared in the Las Vegas Valley in Nevada, USA in 2006. Glendene Grant right here, who we're all so fortunate to have you here and to have learned so much. Like I said, I learned a lot from you, and I know whoever's listening is going to learn a lot. So thank you for that. So Glendene Grant, Jessie's mom, and on March 24th, 2006 was the last time she heard Jessie's voice. At the time of disappearance, Jessie was 21, blonde hair, her eyes are hazel, her height is 5'6", weight 115 pounds, and her date of birth, May 27th, 1984. And so again, I do many of the age progressions, and it will be in my upcoming book, but this is the latest one. So when I age her next, I'll just, add the more gravity and stuff. But I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time. I know you hustle and you work really hard. Your heart is amazing. Like I see you, the real Glendene, and I love you. And that's why you and Jessie are in my book to honor you both. And I'm sorry about Crystal and Dwight also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking again, and I'm sure we will do this again.
Yes.
You take care. I love you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.